Today is July 31, 2016. We're in a social meeting and are about to look some more at Ellen White's pamphlet number 7 called An Appeal to Our Churches in Behalf of Home Missionary Work. So let's ask our Heavenly Family to bless us before we read this. Eloheinu, Heavenly Family, Todah, thank you so much. Please help us to understand the counsel that you've given to us through these writings. Bless us with comprehension and stir up our will to zealously move forward, proclaiming the truth for the salvation of the world. Todah. We ask these things, B'Shem Tzemach.
Amen.
In the name of God. Okay, so, if I remember correctly, I think we are at the bottom of page 13 and about to start the section called Ministering to Others. Souls are perishing out of Christ, and those who profess to be the disciples of Christ are letting them die. Wow, that is a hugely important statement. And actually, I think it was the last social meeting when we talked about this, how every second that goes by, there's someone dying. So souls are perishing out of Christ, and those who profess to be the disciples of Christ are letting them die. Our brethren have talents entrusted for this very work, but they have bound them up in a napkin and buried them in the earth. What manner of entreaty can be brought to bear upon the idlers in marketplaces that will arouse them to go and work in the Master's vineyard? What can we say to the slothful church member to make him realize the necessity of unearthing his talent and putting it out to the exchangers? Oh, that God would set this matter in all its importance before the sleeping churches. Oh, that Zion would arouse and put on her beautiful garments. Oh, that she would shine. Amen. We have to recognize how important it is that we choose and we act.
Amen.
We should not just sit on our talents. No, our Heavenly Family has given each person here talents to use for the upbuilding of the kingdom. If you don't use it, you lose it, as the saying goes. We must use our talents for the glorification of our Heavenly Family and for the salvation of others. And we will see results. Continuing on, Ellen White says, this work of enlightening others is not the work of the minister only. So not just those who are full-time. The work of enlightening others is not the work of the minister only, but it is the work of all who profess the truth of God. God has given to every man his work in making Christ known to the world. We must teach the members of the church how they may effectually minister to others. There are many who are ordained ministers who have never yet exercised a shepherd's care over the flock of God, who have never yet, and unfortunately in my book the word is blocked out, but it's watched, I'm pretty sure, who have never yet watched for souls as they that must give an account. Were the kind of labor of which it stands in need, bestowed upon the church, many who are doing nothing would be educated to become diligent laborers in the harvest field. An education should be given to the people of God that would result in furnishing hundreds who would put out to the exchangers valuable talents, whose use would develop men for positions of trust and influence, and great good would be accomplished for the master. No time to waste.
Amen.
Any comments?
Well, I just want to say that I've thought about that idea of somebody dying every second quite a few times this last week, and it really changes what you decide to do with your time.
Amen. It should, shouldn't it? Amen. And as far as educating people to learn how to effectively minister to others, I just want to mention to you guys, every recorded study that we have is for that purpose, to teach everyone here how to share the truth. And we actually talk about this from time to time, somewhat frequently, how to go about explaining things to others and meeting people where they are at. Don't expect them to share your presuppositions. So really what we all must do is simply use the talents that we have been given and just really use them and have the other person's interest at heart, really care for their salvation. And then you will naturally seek for the best ways to reach that person. It's important to be a good listener, to listen to what the other person has to say, where they are coming from. If you just go and randomly start saying whatever to them, are you really going to know if you're giving them what they need? No, and hey, there may be times where our Heavenly Family calls upon someone to go and say something to someone. It's not that we need to restrict our Heavenly Family, but generally speaking, it's good to know where someone's at so you don't throw a stumbling block before them. Especially when it comes to controversial teachings. When it comes to controversial things, I know that if you just randomly go up to someone and just say, let's say it's a Seventh-day Adventist or a Davidian or a Sunday-keeping Christian, and you say, hey, by the way, the Godhead is really 4 separate gods, 2 of which are female. The vast majority of Christians and Adventists and Davidians will not respond well to that. But if you go to someone and start talking to them about what salvation really is, what justification by faith really is, most people, if presented to them right, will be able to listen and to consider it and to really see the truth. So you have to be mindful of what is really going to help the person. You may come across something as we're learning things that is so exciting to you. Well, just because it's very exciting to you does not mean that it is the best thing to share with another individual at that time. What they need to hear may not be the same thing as what you need to hear at this very time. So seek the best ways to help the individual or the individuals to whom you are speaking. These are all very important principles, and there's much more that could be said, but I encourage you all, and I know that some of you are really, taking it seriously to witness to people. Witness to people more and more and more so, and find ways to improve in witnessing to them. I'm having to constantly ask our Heavenly Family to show me how can I best communicate with other individuals, whether branches, Davidians, Adventists, totally non-religious, doesn't matter. And I know that I certainly need to improve and that I have everlasting room for growth. So let us advance. Would anyone like to thank our Heavenly Family in closing?
I just want to add that Jesus asks questions. That's a good way of getting things started.
Getting people thinking. Amen.
I will.
Wonderful.
Heavenly Family, we just thank you so much for these social meetings, and thank you that tonight's meeting was such a blessing, and that we learned some more principles and discussed some principles that are so important, and that if we follow them, we will be following in your footsteps, Heavenly Family. And I just thank you for this fellowship, and I thank you for all that we're learning. Help us to desire more than anything to help people, and to help them by showing them the truth in a way that they can take it in and understand it. And I just ask that you would continue to bless us and guide us into truth. And I ask these things, Hashem Shemach. Amen.
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 Todah Elohim.